Excellent. We are streaming live now. All right. So good morning, everybody. We are now up. We're close to finishing Sif Bays in Simon Reish Mem Ballad, and we had just kind of slipped in Sif Katan Yud Zayin before the buzzer last time. So I want to just reread that. I want to make sure we got that, and then we'll continue forward from there. So let's just make sure that we have it on the screen available for everybody. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay. Sorry, too far. All right, here we are. Reish Mem Daled. All right. Let's zoom in here a little bit. Squire. So we had the Ramah's opinion was, let's just remember, the Shulchan Aruch's opinion was that if you were preparing, so if you give a non-Jew the job to prepare stones for a house or a building structure, beams that need to be prepared for a structure, even if they are being worked on in the non-Jew's home, in the non-Jew's shop, this is still problematic according to the Shulchan Aruch if he or she, the non-Jew, continues to do the work on Shabbos. Again, I'm not telling them they have to do the work on Shabbos, but they're doing it on Shabbos. Because, as he writes here, Kevan delitzorech mechubar, since this is something that is related to the buildings and structures that are attached to the ground. V'im osu kein lo yishak ein bevinyan. And if this does happen, you should not use these stones and not use these beams as part of the structure. V'yesh omrim, the Ramah added and said, "Im eino mefursam hu shel Yisrael shari." If it's not public knowledge that that these stones and these beams are going to be used or are going to be part of the structure of a Jewish home, if it's not public knowledge, then it's permissible. Now, even according to the Shulchan Aruch, if we mentioned last week, if the beams and the stones and the materials are not yet owned by the Jew, but they are owned by the contractor, they're owned by the non-Jewish builder, then there is no issue here whatsoever, because it's not, you can't say that the materials have a Shem Yisrael on them. It doesn't make any sense, to even say that there should be a problem of appearance, marisayin. If the stones are owned by a Jew and I give them over to the non-Jewish builder contractor, and I say, here are the stones. I bought you the raw materials. Now you shape it, cut it, however it needs to be. That's when this discussion, this machloket, comes into play. The Shulchan Aruch is more strict on that question, and the Ramah is more lenient when it comes to this question. Let's take a look here. Let's just reread Yud Zayin. Okay, let me get my laser pointer. Here we go. So Hayesh Omrim Kai Akulu. The Ramah's comments are focused not just on the stones and the beams, but they are related to everything that came before it in this siman so far. Meaning, The Hainu af mechubar gamur. Even if you have an actual building structure, lo asr bekablanus ella bistama. It's not prohibited in a situation where you contract somebody for a job. Remember, that's what kablanut means. Ella bistama. It's only problematic when it's a case of bistama, when it's just the general case of stama, which he defines here, the mistama shem Yisrael nikra alav. The normal case is that the Jew owns the building, asks the non-Jew, I need you to build the house, or I own the karka, I own the land, I need you to build the house, or I own the house already, and I need you to extend the house, fix the house. That's the kind of case when it's problematic. But the Ramah would say, if, let's say, it's not known that the building is al shem Yisrael, is Jewishly owned, and it's a question of what does it mean eino mefursam? Not everybody knows every building whose owner it is, but if I go to City Hall, I can find out who the owner of the building is, meaning it is public information. So we'll talk about that in a second. Al situs ha'avonim, the fact that the Ramah puts the yesh omrim here, that if it's not mefursam, that he sticks this comment related to the stones and the beams, mishun b'vinyan mamish, because generally speaking, with an actual building, with an actual structure, not just the materials, ein matzvizeh, it's not so common that people don't know that it's not mefursam. And I think that I was looking here in my in the Dirshu edition here, basically seems that if the information is widely available, and you can go to City Hall, you could find out who owns the building. That's already mefursam. It's known information. That's going to be problematic. When is it maybe not a problem? Though this is really silly because then you don't really own it, I guess. But let's say that you're in a deal. You have a contract to buy a house. It's not yet closed. It didn't, title officially. The title didn't transfer yet from one to the other. But let's say you make a part of the deal for the house, certain work that has to be done. It's built into, we'll buy it. It's going to be ours. It's in writing here, but the title hasn't transferred yet. We haven't closed on the house, but the work is clearly being done on my behalf as a Jew. Right now, if I'm not paying them, I guess there's nothing really to talk about. If it's the original owner, who's paying for the work, which is usually probably how it goes in most of these situations. Even though the work is being done on my behalf and on my request, I'm not telling them they have to do it on Shabbos. But let's say even in that situation where the Jew who's buying the house, who doesn't technically have the title to the house yet, pays for pays the contractor to do this work, and gets involved. I don't know why you would do that. I'm not sure how that makes any sense. But let's say in theory, then it would not be a problem because it's not mefursam that belongs to the Jew. There's no title. It's like the stones and the beams that are not owned by the Jew. How can you say it's a problem if a non-Jew wants to do the work on it? So maybe that's a situation where it's eino mefursam shel Yisrael because it's not the building. It's work on a building, but it's not publicly known to be that this work is being commissioned by a Jew because he doesn't own the property, or she doesn't own the property. Okay, so this is where the reason that the Rama puts the comments here is because that's a very rare case. Usually, when it comes to a building is owned by a Jew and is owned by a non-Jew, and it's known that fact is known. The sticks and the beams and the stones, that could be owned by the contractor. It could be owned by the Jew who wants to give them the particular stones with which they build the building. I know the shul where I grew up, when they were building a building, They brought in particular Jerusalem stone. Like they provided the stone to the contractor. Say, here, this is what we want you to build the building with this. That's when you have this machloket of the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. Is that permissible? If it's mefursam, then even the Ramah agrees it's a problem. If it's not, right? Nobody knows. I gave it to the non-Jew. I gave him these stones I want in my house. Then it is fine. Okay, let's look at the next comment here. I mean, everyone should feel free to comment. Jump in, questions, comments. Always feel free. Yudchet. So this is jumping off of the comment that Ramah said that this arrangement is shari, it's mutter. Hainu she'enu tzarech limchos be'eno Yehudi im ya'aseh malachto b'Shabbos. I don't need to protest with the non-Jewish contractor. Whatever, I hire them for a job and they're doing the job now on Shabbos suddenly. I don't need to protest. I don't need to protest if I see them doing that work and it's not mefursam that it's for me, right? Nobody knows, but I'm walking by, I see that they're doing it on Shabbos. I don't need to protest. Uvilvad shelo yomar lo sheyaseh b'Shabbos. But of course, one of the key conditions here is I can't tell them to do it on Shabbos. Do it on Shabbos. Yes, I go ahead. My encouragement of that is then essentially amira lenochi. I am telling the non-Jew to do a malacha on Shabbos. That if they choose to do it on their own, that's their own business. And as long as they don't feel that they have to do it on Shabbos, right? Or that if they don't do it on Shabbos, they will miss out on, or if they do it on Shabbos, then I get extra profits from it, right? Here we're talking about a job. Build me something, clean something. It's a fixed thing. So if it gets done on Sunday, it's okay also. But I just can't tell them to do it explicitly. Wherever you would say it's permissible in certain circumstances, it has to be that they are doing it in their own shop, in their own house, in their own business. Or at least it should be far away from if we're talking about work on a structure, the stones and the beams, don't do it right on my front yard, on my front lawn. That's a problem. Because then I'm basically giving away information, even though people won't know that the stones are owned by me and the beams are owned by me and I gave them to the contractor to do the work. If he's doing it on my front lawn, it's pretty obvious who it belongs to. And it makes it mefursam. It makes it public knowledge. If on my front lawn they're cutting wood beams on Shabbos and they're shaping the stones.
How would you apply this to services? So I'm a lawyer. I'm in marketing, and I have a problem that at work that I've got to deal with. I'm thinking about it on Shabbos. That's like making stones, and you can't see it. But I'm naturally thinking about it.
So we will get to this. Actually, probably a little bit later. It's interesting that the laws of Amira, it's not Amira Nachri, obviously, that situation. But what Steve is describing, Steve, what you're describing is a problem of daber davar. Though notice the words daber. I don't remember every little detail about this, but I think that we say that hirhur, thoughts about something, which is what you're describing. My business, I'm thinking about something. I think that to the extent that possible, I think obviously it's hard to legislate thoughts, but I think that hirhur technically is going to be mutter. That's in Shin Vav or Shin Zayin. I can't remember.
I remember hearing that. I think it was Charles Bronfman who hired legal firms, and in the contract it would be, you can't work on my business on Shabbos and you can't think about it on Shabbos.
Oh wow.
It's an impossibility, but
right. That's hard to it's very hard to legislate thoughts. Actions you can legislate. Thoughts, I find it a lot harder. And I thought that the thoughts were technically
All right, if we'll get to it, I'll wait. But
I have to I know where it is. It's in Shin Vav or Shin Zayin. I remember learning it at some point long ago.
that's how this applies.
Here. Yeah, no, I found it here. It's in Siman Shin Vav in the Shulchan Aruch, and so later on in Hilchot Shabbos. Here, who be'asakav. If I just think about thoughts about my business on Shabbos, mutter. It is technically by letter law permissible. Again, I think the reason it's mutter is because it's hard to legislate the things that you think about. This is an interesting question when it comes to the 10th commandment, like thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet, though actually I think, Steve, you were there when Rabbi Rappaport gave a shiur about this. Chaim Rappaport from England.
Yes.
He spoke about this topic, that there are many who will explain the 10th commandment, which would seem like God is trying to legislate our thoughts, how it's really not about thoughts, how it's really more about the thoughts that get put into action. That's when it becomes a problem. That to legislate the thoughts about I covet, what you have in my head, that I really wish I could have that. Some do say, I acknowledge that some do say that's a problem, but many say it has only a problem when it gets put into action. But here who ba'asakav mutar umikol makom mishum oneg Shabbos mitzvah shel yachshov bahem klal. It's a mitzvah if you could try not to think about them, V'yehei be'enav ke'ilu kol malachto asvir. And you should, in your eyes, be like, all my work was done before Shabbos. I'm good. Nothing needs to be done. That's not the reality of life, but that is, that's how I would. That's how I would answer. I don't think you can legislate thoughts. Okay, great question. All right, let's continue here in the comments of the Mishnah Berurah. Okay, we have a period here. Okay, umashma bekama achronim. So it appears from the comments of many of the achronim, doesn't list who they are, but the Sfira Lan Ladina ki hayesh omrim. We hold like the Yesh Omrim opinion of the Ramah. Okay, that as long as it's not mefursam, even by stones and beams, it is permissible. Maybe the Shulchan Aruch would also agree to the Ramah's Yesh Omrim bazeh. Ach le'inyan mechubar gufa. But what if it came to actual, mechubar, things that are attached to the ground, structures, buildings, houses? Afilu im habinyan ome b'makom she'en yadua shehu shelo. Even if the house is standing in a spot where nobody knows it's owned by a Jew. I guess if you went to City Hall, you could see it's owned by a Jew. But nobody practically knows. Gam kein ein lahakim. There's no being lenient when it comes to an actual structure on Shabbos. The yesh lachush l'shchena, because the neighbors, maybe they are Jewish, you just don't even know it. Oh, live in a veto, or people in your own household know about this, and your kids and grandkids don't know, and they went to 11th grade Hilchot Shabbat, and they were teaching them this topic, I guess, and now they're confused because the rabbi says one thing in the school, and my parents do another thing in the house, or in the house to be. Shiyodim shehu shelo. They understand that it's owned by. That's how this house is owned by a Jew. But yachshedu, when they're going to suspect, hey, those workers aren't kablan. That worker is not a kablan. Those are schirayot. Those are workers. We're getting paid by the hour, paid by the day, and therefore this work is being done improperly on Shabbos and being paid for the work that's being done for on Shabbos. As we said before in Sifkat on Vav, and I think it's really important to see here. Why ain't lahakel? Okay, by the stones and the beams, maybe we'll be lenient. Maybe even Machaber, he argues, would be lenient. The reason he says that, because what happens? The reason he thinks that maybe that he would agree to it is because he says the im asu came, that if a person, if such an arrangement did go through, lo yisha came of it. He says you should not put it in the structure. He does not use the word aser, and that's important because the Tur, upon whom the Shulchan Aruch built his comments, writes aser, and the fact that the Shulchan Aruch only wrote lo means it's a stringency. Maybe not by the letter of the law. It's not forbidden. If it was by the letter of the law forbidden, he would have written aser li shakei bevinyan. Okay, that's you can make that claim. It's an interesting idea, but more interesting here, I think, for our purposes, is why are we not being naked? Let's say the house is really not known. People don't know. Forget the whole city hall thing. People don't know it's owned by. I bought a house. I bought a property. It's being built. I don't even live there. It's just a building going up somewhere else in the city. Why can't the contractor continue to do the work on Shabbos? Assuming the arrangement is permissible by the letter of the law, there should be no fear of people seeing and having Gemara sign issues here. So again, I point this out because this is how law works, not just Jewish law. I'm not a lawyer, but I gather this is how law works. He writes here, "Venerally baruch kamoshe kasafti dechein hu dasamon Abraham." This not lenient opinion and this low this opinion that even if the only maybe members of your household might know this stuff, still problem. The Elia Rabba Shami Elia Rabba as well. The Shar Achronim, I mean, other Achronim also agree to this approach. Betosfos Shabbos. Tosfos seems to take this approach. And you have a few other here. Achron Levushe Srad, and who's this? The Graz. I'm not sure who this is representing. Anyways. But anyways, the Asur Mishum, why is this prohibited? All these Achronim say, why is it prohibited? Mishum the low plug. It's a low plug. The Gzeira is that houses, buildings, things that are mechubar lakarka, attached to the ground, we don't allow that work to be done when there is some possibility that people will, even if it's a remote possibility, because it's just a low plug. Because people will make a mistake and think that your workers are getting paid on Shabbos for the work that they're doing. You commission this on for Shabbos specifically, and it's a low plug. We don't differentiate. That's why even in the the house that's in the corner of the town that no one would even know that it's owned by a Jew, it's still a problem because it's a low plug. We don't differentiate in the law. The law is the law. And so, yes, this was not the intention of the law, but sometimes it happens. Things get caught up in the law. Okay. All right. Now, again, I am willing to make the claim, and we're going to talk about more of this in the weeks to come. I want to lay all the groundwork here. But when it comes to a house in our day and age, it is hard to imagine that anyone will make a mistake to understand that and think that the contractor is paid by the day or by the hour or something like that, or that a house is being built in such a fashion where you hire the people to work by the hour. The way a house 99% of the time or a building is built is you pay the contractor, and the contractor then gets workers, to do the work. I'm maybe there. He or she pays them by the hour. I think it's probably what happens. Probably hourly, unless it's a specialist like an electrician or something like that. Maybe that's a different situation. I don't know. So maybe given that, maybe there's no fear of Maris Ayin altogether, because what can you suspect? The Jew is not telling them to do the work on Shabbos. Contractor said, I'll do it on Shabbos because I want to get the job done faster so I can get on to the next job. So that may be...
What if you give the contractor a deadline? I need this done by the end of the month. And nobody's spelling it out, but darn well the only way he could do that is working on Shabbos.
So that is problematic by the letter of the law, because then I am basically telling them that they have to work on Shabbos. It has to be that they don't have to work on Shabbos. And if they choose to work on Shabbos, that's their own business. So maybe Hinda's making a point. Maybe there is a scenario where people can still suspect you, which is that they're working on Shabbos because the Jew told them, no, I need this to be done ASAP. In which case it would be actually problematic by the letter of law, because then I'm forcing them to work on Shabbos. That is actually a real problem. That's not just a Maris Ayin issue. So maybe that's a good point, people, because that does happen. That's not the Hinda scenario is not a made up scenario. You'll say, now, does the contractor always listen and get it done by the deadline? I don't know. But it doesn't matter. If I tell them it has to be done by a certain deadline, I say, I need this to be finished in the next 2 months. And you understand that means they're essentially going to need to work every single day. Then that's not an appropriate arrangement as far as halacha is concerned. All right. Let's go to Gimel. We have about 5 minutes left. Im banu eno Yisrael. If im banu eno Yisrael, sorry, im banu enam Yehudim li Yisrael b'Shabbos be'isr. Let's say that a non-Jewish contractor goes ahead and builds on Shabbos in a way that was problematic. It was problematic. There was a Marasayan concern there. Nochon lahachmir. This is a whopper of a chumrah. It is appropriate, nachon, to be strict. Shelo yekansubo. You should never enter that house. This is based on a maisa, on a story that comes that is told in Maseches Moed Katan on Daf Yud Beis. I forget who the name of the rabbi was. I could look it up in just a minute. But the rabbi, basically, this happened to him, and he decided he's not going to live in the house. Okay, it's a really big chumrah because he probably spent a lot of money on the house. And notice here the language. It's nochon lahachmir. It's not osur. It's appropriate to be lenient. The Rama writes, Mihu im hisna Yisrael im eno Yehudi shalalasos lo malecha b'Shabbos. I particularly stipulated in our contract, right? Don't do work on Shabbos, right? It's a little bit like Mr. Bronfman, right? Here, right? Not just thinking. I spelled it out very clearly. Don't do the work on Shabbos. It was in the contract, or it was verbally very clear. V'ha'eno Yehudi asa ba'al karcha, but the non-Jew did it against my will. They wanted to get the job done faster. Lemaher lahashli malachta. They want to get the job done. They want to get paid. They want to get on to the next job. Ein lachush. Then you don't need to worry. It's fine. Live in the place. You made it clear what your opinion was, what you felt. Don't do it on Shabbos. You can't make it more clear, right? I actually spelled it out. I stipulated that. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Let's just zoom in here. So be'isr. So this was done improperly, according to the Shulchan Aruch. The situation is that it was, I hired a contractor, do a job for me, kibolas. And it's within the bounds of the city. Okay? Remember, if it's outside the bounds of the city, there's no problem whatsoever. If it's chutz l'tchum. The issue here is marisayin. Really, the person is doing, the non-Jew is doing it because they want to do it. It's only a marisayin concern here. It's not I told them to do it on Shabbos. If indeed this is not a situation of kiboles, it was schirayom. I hired him. That's not normal for today, but let's say I hire the person who's doing the work on the house. I hire them by the day. Every day you hear, I pay you. The medina also, that by the letter of the law is prohibited because I'm paying you for the work done on Saturday. And it's not even in a mushed together with another group, but even so, like I'm paying you for Shabbos. Also, iser mitzad adin, by the letter of the law, it's a problem. But diavad, even after the fact, it's a problem. V'lo nachon bilvad, and it's not just not right. This is osir. It's not just not right to go into that house. It may be problematic to use that house ever. We'll see in a moment here. This is what the Monk Avram writes. The Bach seems to be of this opinion. If a schir yom works on the house on Shabbos, a daily worker, the schir yom asur medina. A schir yom is by the letter of the law problematic. Because it's public. Everyone sees what happened on Shabbos. I told the non-Jew, do the work. So since it's milsa de farhesia, it is a problem for this Jew who owns the property to ever use it. Le'olam, forever. Uliacherim, and if he has others who want to use it, let's say he sells it to others, the time frame which it would be prohibited for is bichdei sheye'asu. the time it would take to have done the work that was done on Shabbos, you have to wait after Shabbos that same amount of time. As we'll explain in Shin Chaf Hey, Sif Yodalad, the topic is a little bit different. And I see I have like 5 seconds left here. In Shin Chaf Aleph, it's talking about a non-Jew who digs a grave on Shabbos. And they know it's going to be used, let's say, right after Shabbos. They dig the grave on Shabbos. So we're not supposed to use that grave. The grave is not supposed to be used if I commissioned it to be dug on Shabbos. Publicly was dug on Shabbos. The question is, though, does that chumrah apply to other cases as well of milsa de farhesia that I asked the non-Jew to do? If the non-Jew digs early, they know the funeral is on Saturday, they dig it on Saturday, that's their own business. So I have to stop here because of time. We'll pick up with this case because this is a very practical question about how long, if a non-Jew does something for me on Shabbos and it wasn't allowed to be done, how long can I not engage in whatever it was that work was done? The idea of it being usher forever is not necessarily the bottom line psak. So we'll talk about this Aruch HaShulchan. This is a whopper of a chumrah, and we'll specify that next week. Have a good week, everybody. I'll turn it over to the shul for davening. Have a good day, everybody.